With the globalization of industry and the introduction of best practice, many industries have streamlined dispatch operations by eliminating disjointed work practices and double handling. The nursery industry in Australia is a notable exception. The wide range of non-uniform products that are grown poses real difficulties when it comes to mechanising and standardising processes in a nursery. Put simply, plants are not like manufactured products. This video is about ways of reducing labour and handling costs in the dispatch of plants from nurseries by making work more organised and easier. The dispatch of plants has long been recognised by Australian nursery operators as the most labour-intensive and inefficient part of the entire production process. However, actual costs have remained largely unknown. For this reason, the Queensland Department of Primary Industries, the Horticultural Research and Development Corporation and the Nursery Industry Association of Australia have commissioned a research project to examine the costs involved in nursery dispatch and come up with ways of overcoming inefficiencies. Currently, the most common sequence for dispatching a pot from a nursery is this. Orders are received at the office by fax or phone. A check is made on the availability of stock, sometimes by computer, but often manually. Information sheets for picking plants from the field are constructed from consecutive orders until there are enough plants to fill a trailer. A tractor then tows the trailer around the growing area while plants needed to fill the orders are selected and loaded. With the aim of ending up with a uniform-looking batch of plants, very detailed selection is carried out over the whole of the growing bay, sometimes for just a few plants. In many cases, the next picking trailer will cover the same path as the one before it. After picking, the plants are normally watered on the trailer. Then it's off to the detailing shed where the plants are unloaded and detailed. One detailer usually takes responsibility for detailing and packing an individual order. The plants are then ready for loading onto the external transport truck. The research work on plant dispatch has found that for an average nursery, the total labour cost in the dispatch of a 140mm pot is a hefty 36 cents. So, where are the main problems? One of the big ones is lack of standards, for example in pots, trays and transportation systems. Another is lack of organisation in individual nurseries. It involves everything in the nursery from staff to machinery, infrastructure, materials and plants. Ineffective planning can lead to problems like wasted time in dispatch operations, because of a lack of staff training and poorly functioning internal information systems. Time is also wasted when detailers are kept waiting because of poor coordination with pickers. Excessive tractor travel during picking and other operations due to poor nursery layout. Excessive walking because of facilities that are not wisely placed, such as label racks, pot storage areas and order trolleys. Poor uniformity within a species because of production techniques which are not what they could be. Excessive plant handling and manual cartage caused by poor access to detailing areas by picking trailers or by handling individual pots rather than trays. Dirty pots and excessive weeds from badly prepared or managed growing areas result in excess detailing time. Even if the growing area is well prepared with gravel beds, dirty roads can still result in pots being soiled. Bad quality roads which reduce travelling speed and cause plant damage. Communications breakdowns can be another critical problem, especially between the office, production and dispatch on what plants are available or ready for sale. Critical operations have to be interrupted while someone goes off to check something. Another problem is excessive travelling by tractors caused by the frequent requirement to travel to all regions of the nursery to collect the plants required for each picking trailer load. Often each tractor retraces the path of the one that went before it, needlessly repeating the same tasks as they stop regularly to pick up small numbers of the same sorts of widely separated plants. Where pickers have to stop and start to collect small numbers of plants, there's a problem with lost time. Each time the tractor stops, more time is lost as the picker studies each bay to become familiar with what's there before starting a detailed selection process with plants that have already been selected over. Problems in the detailing shed begin with inefficient handling, as plants are unloaded from the trailer onto detailing areas. Then there's the stop-start problem during detailing, as each worker, having taken responsibility for one individual order, details small numbers of plants of a particular species, constantly switching from one species to another, looking for new labels, and failing to get into any sort of rhythm. Often, individual workers are detailing individual orders, while the worker beside them is detailing the same small quantities of the same types of plants. Having to handle a small number of plants from a big range of species is part of the recipe for trouble. The other ingredient is the time wasted whenever a worker finishes with one species and prepares to start another. Although the time wasted with each stop and start may not appear to be much, when it's added up over the whole day, it becomes a major cost. Late and urgent orders cause problems by disrupting normal operations. They need individual attention in a hurry and cannot be pre-planned in organising the day's work and staff allocation. General organisation can be greatly improved by efficient communication, making sure that the facilities and materials people have to work with are conveniently placed, that machinery allows people to work efficiently and fits properly in work areas, that there's room to move, and that staff are properly educated to avoid confusion. Office software should have details of not only how many plants of each species are in the growing area, but also how many are ready for sale now. This information must be regularly updated by feedback from production and picking staff. Office staff must also have a good understanding of plant characteristics so they can visualise order requirements. The forms which the office provides to the pickers, detailers and order packers to tell them what to do must be comprehensive, unambiguous and easy to read. Where the various species are placed within a nursery can have a big impact on the travelling distance that's required for picking and other operations. Consider a nursery layout in which species are randomly placed throughout the growing area. Compare this layout with one where high turnover or frequently visited crops are kept close to operational areas, with less visited crops further away. Investigation has shown a saving in travelling distance of up to 25% is available to perform exactly the same operations on exactly the same crops. There's a widespread feeling within the nursery industry that processing by species, while offering benefits during picking and detailing, causes chaos when individual orders come to be collated. But that much-feared chaos can be avoided by using proper management techniques. We'll come back to that shortly, but first, let's look at processing by species right from the beginning. Although processing in the office by species offers little scope for time savings, it can have a big effect on the efficiency of picking and detailing. By collating all the orders that are in at the start of a day and then working out the number of each species needed to fill all the orders, significant benefits can be achieved through the picking and detailing processes. For a start, the picking vehicle does not necessarily need to travel over the whole nursery to collect each trailer load. Instead of more than, say, 15 different species, the picker may now need to collect a large number of perhaps just 1 or 2 species per trailer. The number of times the picker has to stop the tractor is reduced by up to 66%. As well, there's a big reduction in this sort of thing. The the time that has to be spent reading pull sheets, getting familiar again with what's in each growing bay, and walking. As we mentioned earlier, there can be substantial time savings in the detailing shed. In fact, processing by species can cut detailing time by 20%. The benefit comes from each worker now being able to detail large numbers of the same type of plant without stopping and starting as they switch to and from different species. It's the time wasted whenever a worker pauses and changes task that adds up to be a huge cost in dispatch. It also means less time spent selecting labels. Walking is greatly reduced and the need to check order sheets is eliminated. They simply detail the plant on the trailer, load to the final packaging trays, pass it on to a collating conveyor, and then take the next plant. Following this system, the detailers do not have to worry about which plant goes to which order. At a later stage, another worker collates all the species batches into individual orders. This worker is the only one concerned with which plants go to which order. He refers to a specialized form which instructs him on how a batch of species is to be broken into individual orders and onto which trolley they should be placed. An example of this type of form is contained in the manual which accompanies this video. Plants are selected from the conveyor for each order and placed in a trolley allocated for a specific order. If the trailer is not suitable for detailing, trays of plants need to be removed to the gravity conveyor which delivers them to the bench for detailing, and the rest of the process is exactly the same. If required, the process can be added to include changing pots. By thoughtfully deciding the sequence in which the plants are picked from the field, a large proportion of orders may be fully collated straight away without having to wait for any more plants to arrive from the field. This process may be greatly aided by using a computer in decision-making. If more plants are required for some orders, then these trolleys can await completion. It should be noted, if there is no repetition of species within the various orders during the day, then picking by species has no advantage over picking by orders. If this is happening in your nursery, perhaps you're growing too many species. For any growing bay, the efficiency of picking decreases with each selection. As plants are taken, there are fewer good plants and a higher percentage of unsuitable plants remaining. One way of maintaining a high picking efficiency but also cutting down on walking is to adopt a moving line philosophy. It works like this. The first task for a picker who arrives at a fresh unpicked bay is to examine the first row of the bay and take all the suitable plants from this row. Only after being satisfied there are no suitable plants left in the first row will the picker move on to the second row. After selecting over the second row, the picker will move on to the third row, and so on. In this way, a moving line is established. When the next picking trailer arrives, the picker clearly sees where to start selecting. The benefits of this system are that selection is always from a region where the percentage of good plants is at its maximum, and there's no selection over plants that have already been rejected. It also means walking and selection time are cut to a minimum. Rejected plants can either be put in a group to await further maturity or simply scrapped. If plants are of a type where there is enough uniformity to meet customers' needs, then all the plants that are required may be taken from the end of the bay. What makes the growing of plants different from producing nuts and bolts is that within any group of plants of the same type and age, there may be significant variation in things like size, maturity of flowers, and bushiness. So, in picking plants of a particular type, it's necessary to make detailed selections to ensure that all the plants are of suitable appearance. Another way to increase the efficiency of picking is to make the plants more uniform. One way to do this is to set up a grading procedure at the propagation or repotting stage. This way, grading can be done without extra handling. Culling of inferior plants, which also helps uniformity, can also be done. Other ways to encourage uniform growth are evenly controlling the application of water, fertilizer, and light, and making sure there's an even consistency in potting mix. whole step can be cut out of the detailing process if growing areas are kept clean. If pots arrive clean, it does away with the need to clean or replace them. Weeding as part of detailing can also be done away with if weeds have been controlled during production. The key to making the most of processing by species rather than by orders is having most of your orders in by the start of the day. When orders arrive late or quantities are small, that is less than 1 tray per species, the grower is the loser. When this happens, it can cost the grower at least 8.57 cents more to dispatch a 140mm pot. Buyers may be encouraged to place their orders early by the promise of on-time delivery of the required products. The greater the quality of individual species, the greater the efficiency with labour costs, saving up to 5 cents per pot. As well as the benefits we've already looked at, computers have other roles to play in making the dispatch process more efficient. They can help decide the order in which plants should be picked, what route the pickers should take through the nursery, where plants should be placed in growing areas, and how the staff workload should be allocated. Taken overall, the improvements in the dispatch process outlined in this video can produce significant savings for the grower. Let's summarise. In picking alone,